All right, so welcome to part 3 of the extra small tutorials. There is a little note, and if you're following the written pattern, you've probably already done this. What you're going to do is actually come back here to row 44, which was our second to last row of clusters. And you're going to count into the 4th cluster and place a stitch marker from the edge, and you'll count to the 17th stitch or cluster and place a stitch marker, and you're going to do that on both sides. That's going to help us when we go to attach our pockets later on. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into row 47. You should have placed a double crochet across, all the way across, for row 46. All right, we're going to be moving into row 47 here. We are going to place 5 half double crochets. So that's a yarn over, go into your hook, yarn over and pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And if you know me personally, you know I do not like half double crochets. We don't have too many here to go, so we're going to do a 3rd one here. We're going to do a 4th one. And we're going to do a 5th one. Now, we are going to do a front post double crochet around this next stitch. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go to the side of that stitch and behind it, and we're going to come out the other side. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Now the next stitch, we're going to do a back post double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go behind through the side of the post, into the front of the post and out the other side. We're going to yarn over, pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And you're going to do that a total of 73 times, but let's do another set together. So we're going to yarn over and do a front post double crochet. Go behind that post, yarn over, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, go behind, or excuse me, behind and then in front of the next stitch for a back post double crochet. Yarn over and pull up your loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So go ahead and do that 71 more times, and I'll see you at the end. All right, so come to the end, and we're going to place a front post double crochet because I have 6 stitches left. So we're going to place a front post double crochet here, and now we're going to place 5 half double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 into this last one here. So go ahead and check your stitch count if you already haven't, and we're going to move into row 48. All right, moving into row 48, we are going to place 5 half double crochets here. So yarn over, place 1, place the 2nd, place the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. Now we're going to place a back post double crochet around this first stitch. So yarn over, go behind and in front of that post and out the other side. You're going to pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, oops, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, and then we're going to do a front post double crochet around this stitch that's in the front here. And that's all this row is, or well, for now. So go all the way down, and you'll wrap up with a back post double crochet. All right, so I finished all my front posts and my back posts. I finished with a back post double crochet, which leaves us with 5 stitches. We're going to place 5 half double crochets to finish up this row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you have 4 more rows to do. and they're down in the comment section, how you will place another row. Row 50 is going to be a repeat of row 48. Row 51 will be a repeat of row 40. Wait, I did that wrong. Row 49 is going to be a repeat of row 47. Row 50 will be row 48, and row 51 will be row 47. You will finish the body of this with 157 single crochets along the bottom, which will bring you back to the buttonhole side, and you will chain 2, and then we're going to get started on the border. So at the end of row 52, make sure that you're chaining 2 instead of 1, and you don't need to turn your work other than to work down this edge here where the buttonholes are. So I'll see you for the border in a little bit. All right, so I've chained 2 and I've wrapped up row 52 here. We're going to place a single crochet in the same space as our last single crochet. And now we're going to place a single crochet over each of our half double crochets that made up these front post, back post rows, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into these holes at the end, okay? So we're going to place 1, okay? We're going to place 2, we're going to place 3, 4, and our last one is going to go right here, 5. Okay, now we're going to place 2 single crochets over the last double crochet in all of our rows for 44 rows. That's going to take us up to that stitch marker that we placed at the end of row 4. So let's place 2 here in our double crochet row that we did before our front post, back post. And I'm going to give you a little tip here. So in the buttonhole rows, we're going to place 2 single crochets because every double crochet is the same height as 2 single crochets across, okay? So then you're going to have 8 single crochets between each buttonhole. So that's going to place 2 single crochets at the end of each row. And you'll repeat that all the way up, okay? And that's going to help you quite a bit. And then when you get to the rest of them, it'll just be easier. It'll feel a lot more natural for you to find where your single crochets are going to pop into each row. Alrighty, so I just wrapped up my last row of 2 single crochets over a double crochet, which was where my stitch marker was. And if you don't have the written pattern in front of you, there should be 92 single crochets down to the corner so far. Okay, now we are going to be placing single crochets here up to where our neckline is, and we're going to place 3 single crochets total. And these are going to kind of be spread out a little bit more. So you're going to place 1 into row 3. You're going to place 1 into row 2. And you're going to place 1 across the chain 3. Now, if yours is like mine and it's a little wide, what I recommend is going down here and popping your hook and kind of doing a long single crochet there, okay? Now, we do need 51 single crochets across the neckline. All right, so what you're going to do is pick up both loops of that first single crochet, and you're going to place your first one there, okay? And then you'll place 50 more single crochets. Now, what I like to do is place a stitch marker in that very first one, because that way I can go back and count 51, and then I know it's time to work down the edge, okay? All right, so I wrapped up my neckline and I placed a stitch marker in the last single crochet so that I can go back and count in a little bit, okay? Now what we're gonna do is place 3 single crochets leading up to this row, which is row 4, where our stitch marker is, okay? So we're just gonna evenly space those out, and I do like to crochet over that tail, okay, from the very beginning chain. So go ahead and place 1. We're going to place a second one. Where's my tail? And a third one. Okay. Now, you are going to place 92 single crochets down to your next corner, just like you did on the first edge. And so you're going to have 2 single crochets over each double crochet all the way down, and then I will help you with those half double crochets, okay? So I think that makes sense. If not, go ahead and drop a comment, but it's literally just mimicking what we did on the other side. So go ahead and place 2 single crochets over the last double crochet of each double crochet row leading up to those front post, back post rows. Okay, and I will see you in a second. When you go back and count, I'll help you do that at the end once we finish up to the corner. Okay, so now we're going to place a single crochet over the last half double crochet of all of these front post, back post rows. Okay, so you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you'll place 1 in the base of the first single crochet, okay, of the bottom edge. Now we're going to chain 2, and that creates a corner, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of that first single crochet, okay? Now go ahead and turn your work so that you can work along the bottom edge. I'm going to do that real quick. So we're going to begin our decorative edge. So starting in the next single crochet, you're going to place a single crochet. You're going to chain 1 and go back into that stitch with a single crochet. And then we're going to repeat, or we're going to skip the next stitch and we're going to repeat that. So let's do it one more time together. I'm going to do a single crochet, a chain, and a single crochet in that same stitch. And then you'll skip the next stitch. So repeat that all the way down. You're going to have a total of 78 of these. All right, so I've come to the end of the bottom board edge and I'm at my first chain 2. What we're going to do is place a single crochet, a chain, we're going to place another single crochet in there, and then we're going to do that again. Single crochet, chain, and single crochet. Now, along the entire edge leading up to the next corner, we're going to skip a stitch and repeat what we did on the bottom. So we're going to place a single crochet, chain, and go back into that stitch with another single crochet. So you'll skip a stitch and repeat, single crochet, chain, single crochet. Now up to the next corner, you should have a total of 120 of these little V stitches, okay? And then we'll do this last corner together, and then all right, so to wrap up this vest, I've come to my other corner, and it's kind of hard to see just because the chain 2s and corners are always so tight, but we're going to do the same thing we did on the other side. We're going to place a single crochet, a chain, a single crochet, and then we're going to do that again in the corner. So single crochet, oh, my yarn is stuck, chain, and a single crochet. Now you're going to go over here and we're just going to slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet, and we will fasten off and weave in our tails, okay? And so now we're going to So to get started with row 1, it doesn't matter what sleeve side you start on, okay? But you are going to count in to the second stitch marker of your sleeve. So the right sleeve would be over here, and then my left sleeve would be this purple one. So go ahead and pick what sleeve you're going to get started with and turn your work so that you can do that. All right, so for row 1, I am going to be working over the shoulder. So you see here where it just looks like our normal cluster chain area, and I'm going to be putting my last stitches over, excuse the dog here, you guys are probably used to it by now, over the armpit, okay? So your first row on both sleeves is going to go over the shoulder first, okay? Now I have a slip stitch here, and I've got my hook in the same space as the stitch marker, okay? And all I'm going to do is slip stitch through that, okay? Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to place a double crochet in that stitch. Now I do I crochet over this tail, that way I don't have to weave it in later. Okay, now you're going to chain 1, and we're going to move over here. Now between where these 2 double crochets and this cluster is, we're going to place a cluster. All right. All right. So now we're going to chain, and we're going to place a cluster in the chain space. And we're going to do that a total of 18 times. All right. So go ahead and do that 17 more times by yourself, or I guess 16 because we just did 2 together, okay? And I'll see you for the armpit. All right, so I've got my 18 chain clusters. I'm going to chain 1, and just like the other side, we are going to place a cluster on the other side of this cluster before these 2 double crochets, okay? Now you're going to chain, and where this stitch marker is, we're going to place a double crochet. All right, so now we're going to be working over the armpit. Let me go ahead and turn here a little bit. And we're going to do this a total of 5 times. So what we're going to be doing is actually straddling, what I call straddling these 5 clusters with clusters. So let me pull this a little bit tighter here. We're going to chain 1, and now we're going to yarn over. We're going to go before the cluster in row 22. We're going to pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2. We're going to yarn over. We're going to go after our cluster. We're going to yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. Let's do that 4 more times. We're going to chain. We're going to yarn over, go before the next cluster, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over. We're going to go after that same cluster, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. Go ahead and do that 3 more times. Alrighty, so this is what it should look like, okay? And now, if you haven't already, we're going to chain 1, and all we're going to do is go over here to this original double crochet, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of it. Okay, we're going to chain 1, and we'll turn our work. All right, we're going to be moving into row 2 here. So now we're going to place a cluster in this first chain space. Now some of you might slip stitch to that chain space. That's totally up to you. I don't. For the sleeves, I think it adds a little bit more bulk, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to place a cluster here in this first chain space. Okay, and now we're going to go over the armpit again, and we're going to start working in this next chain space with our straddles. So we're going to chain 1, we're going to yarn over, go into that next chain space, yarn over, pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go into the next chain space, which is after this same cluster, yarn over, pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. We're going to do that again. Chain, yarn over, go into that. Go before the cluster, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, go after the cluster, yarn over, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. We're going to do it a 3rd time. So chain, we're going to straddle, yarn over, go before the cluster, yarn over, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, go after that same cluster, and wrap up that cluster. So now we're going to chain, And in the next chain space, we're going to cluster. Okay, and you're going to do that a total of 22 times. So go ahead and work over the shoulder 21 more times by yourself, and moving forward, the clusters are all going to go in a chain space, okay? All right, so to wrap up this row, we're going to slip stitch into the top of that first cluster. We're going to chain one and turn our work. Make sure you're checking your stitch count moving forward, okay? All right, moving into row 3. We are going to be working in this first chain space here. We're going to place a cluster. I'm actually going to take this tail, pull it up. Some of you are like, what is she doing with that tail? I do not like to weave in. I think that weaving in tails is literally the worst part of crocheting. So I have created ways to not have to do that, and it works really well. And then you're going to chain one, and then I'll do that same thing in the next row. So what you're going to do is place 21 more cluster chains around the shoulder, and I'll meet you for the armpit. All right, I did miss type when I was typing up the pattern, and it should be 23 clusters into the chain space. So I've got 22. I'm going to place this 23rd. I do apologize, the weather where I'm at is a little bit crazy. So we're going to place a 23rd cluster here. And I do apologize for misspeaking, and we're going to chain. So now we're at the armpit. We're only going to do one straddle, and we're going to do it across this center straddled cluster, okay? Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to chain one, and in this last chain space, we're going to place a cluster. We're going to chain, and now we're going to slip stitch to the top of this cluster. We're going to chain, and we'll turn our work to move into row 4. And check your stitch count, but I believe that you should have 25 clusters and 25 chain spaces, okay? All right, moving into row 4. Now this is going to be for row 4 through 9. However, I'm going to do row 4, and then at the end of row 4, I'm going to show you how I change colors, okay? Which there's a timestamp down there, so I'm sure you already knew that. Because I, again, don't like tails, so I do a magic knot. So I'm going to walk you through that at the end of this row. But this row is super simple. We're going to place a cluster in the chain space. Okay. We're going to chain one, and you're going to do that a total of 25 times around. Now, all right, we're moving into row 10 here, and this is going to be rows 10 through 16. What you're going to do is place a cluster, and chain. And we're going to do that 4 times total. So let's do number 2, number 3, number 4. So you should have 4 clusters and 4 chains. Now in the next chain space, we're going to place a cluster. And that's your repeat. So you'll start, you won't chain, you're going to start with a cluster into the next chain space, and you'll do it 4 more times, okay? So 4 clusters followed by a chain with a 5th cluster that isn't followed by a chain, okay? So go ahead and repeat that all the way around, and you'll slip stitch like always to the top and turn your work, okay? So I'll see you for row 17. All right, we're going to be moving into row 17 through 22, and for this repeat, we are going to place a cluster. First one's always a little bit difficult. Followed by a chain for a total of 3 times. So let's do the second cluster. Chain, a 3rd cluster. Chain. Now the next 2 clusters are not going to have a chain after them. So 1 and 2. And that's all your repeat is. Okay, so you'll have cluster followed by a chain 3 times, and then 2 clusters by themselves. So do that 4 more times, and I will meet you for row 23 for our next repeat section. All right, we're moving into row 23 through 28. And what you're going to do is place a cluster here in the first space, followed by a chain. We're going to do that a second time. Cluster and chain. Now we're going to place 3 clusters. 1, 2, and 3. And that's all your repeat is. So go ahead and wrap that up for this row and work all your way up to row 28, and I will see you for row 29. That's going to be a cluster chain times 2 and then 3 clusters. All right. All right, moving into row 29, which will take you up to row 34. We are going to place 5 clusters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You're going to wrap up this repeat with a chain. So go ahead and finish that all the way around, 5 clusters with 1 chain after, and slip stitch to the top, and you will do this for row 29 through 34, and I will see you for row 35. All right, moving into row 35, we are going to be placing a cluster here between these clusters, and you're going to do that 25 times, and then I'll help you with the 26th cluster. So go ahead and do 24 more clusters between clusters for row 35, and I'll see you in a bit. All right, so I've got 25 clusters, and now what we're going to do is straddle this cluster right here. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go before it, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go after it, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3, and now we're going to slip stitch to the top of the first one. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn our work and move into row 36. All right, moving into row 36 through row 40, we are going to be placing 26 clusters around. For this first row, you're going to go on the first side of your cluster and place a cluster. Okay. And now we're going to go on the other side of our cluster and begin the next 25 clusters. Okay. So go ahead and place 24 clusters between each cluster from your previous row, and you'll work all the way up to row 40, and then I'll help you with row 41. All right, we're moving into row 41. In this row, we're going to be straddling row 40's clusters the way that we did at the armpit. So we're going to yarn over, go before the cluster, yarn over and pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, we're going to go after that same cluster, yarn over, pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 3. You're going to have a total of 26 of these. Let's do one more together. And then you will slip stitch at the end of this row. You do not need to turn your work. Row 42 is going to be 26 double crochets around. You will slip stitch to the top of your first double crochet, and you will not need to turn your work at the end of 42 as well. I'll see you for row 43. All right, moving into row 43, I placed 26 double crochets for row 42, and you'll see I got all my straddled clusters there. So now what we're going to do is front post double crochets and back post double crochets. So around this first one, we're going to yarn over. We're going to go behind it and out the other side. We're going to yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Now we're going to do a back post double crochet. So yarn over, go behind, into the front, and out the other side. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So go ahead and repeat that around 12 more times and slip stitch to the top. You will repeat row 43 for rows 44 through 47. And then for row 48, you do not need to turn your work at the end of row 47. You're going to place 26 single crochets all the way around for row 48, and you'll slip stitch 3 times and weave in your end. And then